Hello, I am Todd Simmons. I'm the Executive Director of Jefferson Performing Arts Society, and I'm very excited to be here this morning with the cast, or most of the cast, of our upcoming production of Fly, which opens at Jefferson Performing Arts Center on February 4th. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have to thank you all, particularly for being here at 8 o'clock in the morning for this meeting. This is it's all amazingly awake, and I thank you for that. I want to start this morning just by having each of you introduce yourselves and tell us about yourselves. Tell us about your history in theater, what you do, and just kind of go from there. And in my cameras, I have Mike at the top.
Oh, me. I am.
Is off.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. My name is Michael C. Forrest. I am playing the character of W. Willis. I have been acting for 3 years. This is actually my third production with Miss Tommye Myrick. My original production was A Raisin in the Sun. I am the current Big Easy winner for Best Actor. My character is very, very flamboyant at times because he's from the South Side of Chicago. He's had some experiences in his lifetime that have hardened him, but the camaraderie of military life and being in training with the rest of the airmen softens him up and teaches him that he cannot do everything alone.
Okay. Tommye, you're next on my screen here.
Okay. Well, I'm Tommye Myrick. Everybody knows me mostly as Miss T. I've been in theater since before probably you were born. As a matter of fact, as a director, the very first show I ever directed, and I was at Xavier University, was 50 years ago this year. And so I am a retired educator of higher ed for 43 years. Taught at college level, theater, mass communications, as well as African and African American humanities. Former director of the New Orleans African American Museum, as well as the artistic director of Southern University's theater, and as well as the assistant director of the Center for African and African American Studies. I think that's enough about me, and we can move on.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Okay, Deanna.
Hi, I'm Deanna Malone. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I came to New Orleans because I decided to study at Dillard University. I've been stage managing, and that's what I'm doing for this production since I was in high school. But I originally started my theater career in 6th grade, and it's stuck with me since.
Wonderful. Marcus.
Hey. So my name is Marcus. Yeah, my grandma actually got me into theater. It was just one of those things that she would just bring me to, as opposed to the movies like everybody else. As a young child, she would always bring me to live theater, and that obviously stuck with me to, like, I don't know, family would be rehearsing a skit for church, and I'd hop in to help out, and then finally, as always, a girl introduced me to like theater in high school, and of course I had to follow her. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, you know. So with that, I would say professional after that, but realistically just not school theater. It went well. It's super fun. I learned a lot, but honestly, this is the first time that I've been part of production where I can see people's like careers depend on it, And it's a total mood change in a good way, because it finally feels like everybody around you is taking this as seriously as you do. And it's real weird. Go on.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimez.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Jimez Alexander. I play the role of Chet Simkins. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. In my theater background, I was a theater major in college. My first play ever was Twelfth Night. I played Antonio. That's my exposure to Shakespeare, and I've been bit by the bug ever since. After college, I went to Florida, and I was in Orlando, Florida for 6 years as a puppeteer at Walt Disney World, where I got a lot of training in stilts and in physicality. But then I came back to New Orleans and did a little bit of film, but I really had a passion to use theater to reach people. So I got into teaching artistry. So I worked with trauma-informed care, and I work with children on the spectrum, but we use, similar to a musical therapist, we use theater for therapy. So I love the ensemble work. I love it. That's why I do it. It's the building with the team. So I love diversing. Sorry about that. Diversing theater, building in every youth life that we could save. I love it. I was in corporate America for a little bit with Kaiser Permanente, but they have an educational theater. So for what I was there for 9 years, producing, writing, and acting in touring theater all over Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Southern California, and back to Florida. And from there, I opened up my own company, Parables of Motions, where we still do social outreach theater in underserved communities. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm also a father of 3 and a husband. So they keep me on my toes too.
Wow, congratulations on that, I bet.
Thank you.
Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean Malley. I play Bomber Pilot Reynolds. I graduated from Southern Illinois University in 2013 with a degree in computer engineering and theater, and that probably can say a lot about my personality. But I've been acting since I was 13. I moved around a lot when I was younger. My mom and my dad were both in the Navy, so I was a Navy brat. And I moved to New Orleans in 2018 from Southern California, and I've been just very immersed in the theater scene here. I was in the Shakespeare Festival at Tulane. We did Hamlet. I did Cabaret most recently in Slidell, and this is actually my second performance with JPass. The first performance was South Pacific.
Oh.
Welcome back. Michael.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Michael John Smith. I play Captain O'Hurley, who's he's the commanding officer of the training unit that the Tuskegee Airmen are going through. My theater background, I've got a bachelor's in fine arts in musical theater from Tulane University. Been acting professionally in the New Orleans area since 2009. Was actually a part of, I didn't get a Big Easy Award, but the production that we were in was best university production of Little Shop of Horrors. I was Mr. Mushnick. My first professional, since you bring up South Pacific, my first professional debut in the New Orleans area was also South Pacific, and I played Staff Sergeant Hassinger, which is interesting because I'm a school teacher now, so they just piped in an announcement, so I muted that so you didn't hear that. But that role, I played a Marine in South Pacific, and the coincidence is I am a United States Marine. I'm retired now. I did 32 years in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Retired here in New Orleans. Now I teach at the New Orleans Military Maritime Academy with leadership and character development. This is my second show with JPass. The first was Addams Family just this fall, where I was Mal Beinecke. And I'm pleased to be back with JPass in this incredibly relevant story that I think everybody's got with an incredible group of storytellers in this group. And that's a big reason why I like acting. I stay with acting and I enjoy it. It's not, some people believe that, acting is about being on the stage and being in the spotlight. And way I feel, and I think a lot of people in this group do feel, we're here to tell a story and we're to tell it right so that it relates, it connects. You make up your own mind on what you feel about these characters, but our job is to bring these characters to life so that you get a piece of history, you get a story from a specific point of view.
Mhm. Absolutely. And last but not least is LG.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. So my name's LG Williams. I am playing the Tap Griot in the show. I went to college at Northwestern State University where I got a dual degree in musical theater and dance. I've been performing since my junior year of high school where I did Evita as my first musical ever.
Wow.
And oh yeah, no, it was really fun for high schoolers to do. And I've also done youth outreach in New Orleans as a part of my family's nonprofit organization called Directed Initiatives for Youth, which we've done for the past 13, 14 years-ish now. And then I've also picked up the hobby of like building computers and streaming like gaming on a site called Twitch and like amongst other things. I try to be a jack of all trades, right? And I won't say a master of none because I feel like I've mastered quite a few. So beyond that, and I would say that I feel like the Tap Griot's role is so incredibly important because these men whose true intention I am portraying are in a very difficult space because they are going to start fighting for a country that refuses to fight for them. And because of that, they are constantly being squelched. And as they're being squelched, they have all of this pent up everything on the entire spectrum of emotion. And so for like there needs to be a release, and I feel like I am that release for them in this production.
Okay. Starting with you and going backwards now, you gave us a little bit about your character Tap Griot. What does that actually mean?
So griot is a word for storyteller.
Okay.
So I am the tap storyteller, which in the name means that I am a tap dancing storyteller. And just through that, I will be using tap dance to tell the story as opposed to speaking it as I am right now. And it takes a very different approach to the way that you have to, one, express yourself, and two, observe others. Because I, as I said before, I am their true intention as they are being bottled up in their interactions with pretty much everybody, except for when they are just with themselves and they're allowed to be a little more themselves. And realize I said allowed to be more of themselves because they aren't anywhere else.
Okay. For everybody as a group, I mean, as people who are a military group together, who have trained together, who are willing to die together, who really truly are brothers in every sense, how difficult was it to get to that point of closeness and familiarity in the rehearsal process, understanding you have a few weeks left to go, and also putting this with Tommye about how you guide that unification of people?
Let me start off by, first of all, to my knowledge, we have about 3 military individuals a part of this group. And I believe that helped a lot. I do think, however, that in two parts is my answer. One is how to guide them. As the director, I don't. I allow them to find their own closeness, to bridge their own divide. I would venture to say that there is a racial divide that existed in the 1940s, and that racial divide exists today. The subject matter of this play deals with that. And so for my white actors, I think they struggle with themselves in terms of how to adjust to the past.
Thank you.
And how to embrace the past. Not only how to embrace it, but how embracing the past is physically and mentally and emotionally affecting them now. For my African American actors, I think there was that camaraderie amongst them where you had this group over here and you had this group over there. And I think that our choreographer, who is Donald Jones, and I also think that Naila, who is the assistant stage manager, as well as Deanna, have helped them to become closer by just directing them, but at the same time, allowing them to find their own space. So that's my answer to your question in terms of guiding them.
Great. I want to actually take that to Deanna now and kind of ask that same question about how do you help with that process?
Okay. I'm just gonna say, like, I help with doing my job, with doing what I'm set to be there too. So I'm here to like make sure, hey, everybody, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I feel like I work at an elementary school, and I always call it the principal. Somebody has to be the principal so all the kids could band together. So I guess I'm not the bad guy, but I am the iron fist. So that helps people mold together. So it's not the cast, it's me. So I think that helps. And they really have great communication amongst themselves already. So it was, everybody kind of fell into the fold beautifully.
Excellent. Putting this to the cast now, taking on what Tommye said, particularly with the difficulties of addressing a mind frame of the past today, how did you each deal with that yourself personally? And there's a tightness among military brothers, and with I mean, and you can see this in movies, military movies, but military movies also have months and months to build this camaraderie, whereas this group only has like a few weeks to build that closeness. And I can even see on the Zoom here, there's a familiarity that you have with each other already, that it seems that this closeness has been built already, and how that has been the process of doing. And what Tommye brought up with that is dealing with the racial divide in the show that is blatant, and it's with particularly the well, as it was at that time too, and as it is in many cases today too, how you personally dealt with being able to become that character of 80 years ago.
Can I? Let me jump in right quick. And Michael, not Mike, but Michael. I'm going to let him go after me right quick for a reason. So when Michael came to the cast as the captain, prior to Michael joining the cast, Mike Forrest, who plays WW, was sort of in charge of he kind of took the lead on the military men. So when Michael Smith came as the captain, he kind of stood to the side, which I believe is not just part of his personality in terms of just observing things first. But he stood to the side, and I went up to him and I said to him, Michael, I want you to take charge. And he said to me, but wasn't Mike Forrest, wasn't he the guy who was leading them into everything before I came? And I said, yes, but I need for you to take charge. And I could tell that he felt kind of strange in now trying to push his way into it. And I said, I know that there's going to be a little resentment there from Mike Forrest, but that is the very same resentment that WW would have for the captain. So I want you to please try to foster that. So you can take it, Mike Smith.
It's yeah, I came to the production late, and I was off to the side seeing what had already been done, and that's my personality as a military leader. Just because you're the guy in charge doesn't mean you change everything to fit you. Although I think O'Hurley is that kind of guy, but it's being true to the character that I'm playing, and then being true to the camaraderie of the people that I'm professionally working with. I don't want those two to get mixed up. And I'm still honestly feeling my way around it. I mean, there's things that Michael have done, and there's loyalty to that. There's some things I think we're all gone, and I think I can step in as O'Hurley a little bit more. O'Hurley is difficult for me because I don't like him, and nobody should. And the audience, when they see O'Hurley, you shouldn't like him. So I had to get, there's some of the things that I say and I do, and I condescend to the characters on stage, not to the actors in this group. I respect them immensely. But if I don't become that person that they should not like, I think I'm doing history an injustice. If I smooth this over, I mean, we've come a long way. I think we owe it to see that, but we've still got a long way to go. And that's, I mean, the events in the world in just the past 24 months have shown we've still got a long way to go. But O'Hurley he's not a nice guy. He's got a lot of anger issues that he puts out on them. He's a 34-year-old captain, and for a captain in the Army at the age of 34, he's been passed over for promotion because he's done things that he shouldn't do. He thinks he's true to himself. He's true to everybody, but he's unpolitically correct, even in a time when that didn't exist anyway. As a boy, he romanticized aviators. He was old enough to see what was going on in the First World War as a boy. He wanted to become an aviator. He wanted that job. If this ever happened again, he wanted to be the fighter pilot in the sky. And he's romanticized this sense of a boy. Now it's here. His time for glory is here. He believes he should have been a fighter pilot in Europe. And now he's not. He's also a racist. So he's got anger issues. It's not only is he not getting to follow his dream, but he's giving people that he does not like, he does not believe will succeed, their chance to live his dream. And that's eaten him up inside in a lot of ways. And I mean, it's his own fault. But that's the character. I don't think we should hide that character in history because they existed. Thankfully, there's not as many of them as there was then, but there still are a few here today. And when you see this production, hopefully, maybe some people will look to the left and right and see something in somebody or see something in themselves that we need to fix.
Michael, you know, and for those of you, all of you, who were we fighting? Who were our allies? Some of our allies in World War I.
In World War I, we came into it, we stayed out of it. It was the French and the Germans primarily. We came in at the very end because the French army was exhausted.
So who were we fighting during World War I? Who was our ally? One of our allies. Excuse me?
The French. We stepped up to help the French finish the war.
And who else?
The British.
Uh-huh. And who were our enemies in World War II?
The Germans.
World War II?
Yes.
The Italians, the Germans.
Okay. And who from World War I does he glorify?
Hurley?
Yes.
He glorifies the aviators on both sides. He idolizes the fighter pilots of the enemy as well as the fighter pilots of the friendly. He thinks aerial combat is so honorable, so respectable, so glory. Doesn't matter if you fight for the good guys or the bad guys, as long as you're fighting honorably. And he wanted that chance in history.
Yeah, it's above the war.
Yeah.
Quite
Well,
literally.
he says it. He says they were the creme de la creme. They were the aristocrats of the sky. They were above the grunts on the ground. They were better than all of that.
For the rest of the cast, I want to, in the way that Michael talked, I want to hear from you about your characters and personally dealing with this divide in the show.
This production is definitely a run through time, but myself personally, WW, throughout this production, he's going to go through some transitions, and his background versus, the way he ends up as a Tuskegee Airman, it's almost as night and day. He comes from a very, very rough part of Chicago, and he's taught himself to survive through any situation. And he's a little misguided with his intentions as well as his end goals. He's more self-centered in the beginning, and it takes the camaraderie of being with the other cadets to bring him around to really truly understand the meaning of not only fellowship amongst other military men, but being a leader as well. My adjustment to this character somewhat reflected my experiences in the military myself, being an Army veteran. Going through a number of training regiments and going through a number of tours with different units, there's always someone like W. Willis, whether he's African American or Caucasian. There's always at least a handful of soldiers that have a more self-centered purpose to be in the military rather than to defend their country or build a career. They're more focused on getting ahead. In the time that this play is set in time, it's a little more awkward for an African American soldier to be more for himself than just surviving. This character, you're gonna love him. You're gonna hate him at first, but you're gonna love him at the end. He's very lovable, but he just has some things to work out within himself. And a lot of soldiers come to that struggle when they get to basic training or officer candidate school. Going back to what you said about us of building camaraderie, it all starts with a conversation. It all starts off with, "Hey, how you doing? Where you from? How long you been acting?" It just takes time for someone to really break the ice and someone to actually get everyone else talking to start building the trust, start building the friendships and the lasting relationships that are going to last, not just in this production, but for productions later down the line, as well as the characters, how they gel together in the production. A lot of that happens in the military with just going through a lot of internal struggle and turmoil, as well as witnessing other soldiers' internal struggle. You begin to become somewhat sympathetic to the point where you're trying to help them overcome their own issues as well as your own.
Okay. Marcus, you want to feedback on that?
It's like you read my mind. Yeah. Not even about my stuff. I co-bomber pilot Shaw. I never said it earlier. So I guess the intro. I've got Shaw, and he wonderful character. He's interesting. He has a funny moment where just kind of during the most awful time, he self-reflects and learns that racism is bad, but he does it, and it's really cool that I get a character in this particular tense that actually goes through that arc in front of the audience. But I play a lot of the other ensemble, and what's cool about ensemble is like the rest of the characters, they're the story, but ensemble, they're the world that the story is living in, and so it's super interesting to try to like go through that and make it honest, because of course I don't believe I'm racist, but whether I am or not, like I don't hate these guys. So it sucks every night to like glare at Donald and just like and find, I guess the worst part is finding the honesty in in that moment, hating Donald for no reason except that he's in my bar when he shouldn't, kind of thing. But what's more interesting, it's not about me. It's actually so it's cool that Michael and Mike went at the same time, because it shows how interesting this story is, because off rip, well, off the jump, I should say off rip, weird terminology. But right off the jump, Michael, the Captain O'Hurley, seems like the villain. He's not a nice guy. I'll make that clear. But it's more of like a Judas role. It's just from outside perspective, of course. It's the living embodiment of the fire pushing these guys. As Miss T said, there's a line of I'm gonna do it because they say I can't, and he is the they there, and it's interesting because he's just such a sad character. Because even as his monologue, where he just admits that he's not the main character of his own story, it's really sad. And then you go to Mike and WW, and for the good first half, he's such a villain. It's weird because like he's great but he literally has a villain monologue about how he took advantage of his people just because they underestimated him, and then out of nowhere there's this breaking point, which, going back to your question about unity and the military background, why that we grow close together is because we have no choice. These are the guys that we're here with, that we're stationed with, and yeah, and that's what happens with his characters. He literally gets punched into his role for the rest of the show, and it's super cool. Anyways, that's it. I went on my tangent.
Jimez.
Yes, you like to hear about Chet first. Chet Simkins, who I play, he's interesting, very, very interesting for me. I'm still dating him, and every time we go on a date, I find something different. But he's young. He's a young man from Harlem. So his family was caught up in that Harlem Renaissance era, during that time. So he's a different type of young Black man in this era, but he's constantly referring to being a man divided in two. And I think that he starts in Harlem, the fast hustle, the bustle, but he's a timid kid, and I'm seeing all of this. So you know how it is that when you're a kid or you're at a new school and you're nervous, but then you see that one thing that you're into, be it basketball, be it art, be it whatever. And it's like, oh, this is where I could find my identity as a human being. And Chet, he finds that in flight to find his identity as a man. And he will do whatever he has to do to fly first. That's all that's really on his mind at the beginning. But you see him grow from a timid young man to a meek older man. And the difference between timid and meekness is meekness is like, hey, I have the sword, I'm able to use it, but I keep it sheathed. And I give every character, every play I do, I always try to give them a verse or something that gives me. And for him is, blessed are the peacemakers, for it keeps my plane in the sky. He's very young, but he has a wisdom and a maturity that comes from that silence. But yet, to have his dream of being in the sky, he's willing to be a killer. He's willing to gun down other people. But then we get to see the other side of that when it gets close to his home. And then you see that boyness kind of leave him. And now he's a man not just face the outer world, but his inner world. So he's not a timid Negro, but he is a I would say a weathered man of life and experience. And that conflict that he has in this country that he was born in, the only place where he can find that I'm equal, you can't tell me nothing, is what I'm great at. And I'm great at flying up. So that's Chet. But as far as building the ensemble, me personally as Jimez, I think theater, acting, period, it's a fraternity, it's a sorority, it's a group. When you're in a group similar to what Marcus said, where everybody's invested, everybody's in it, it's like, hey, we're of a royal echelon here, we had so much political influence. Our history as theater is royal. So I greet everybody from audition, from the audition phase. I saw these men and I was like, oh, all right, they're about to be my family. And then after reading the script, and that really helps to have the script before we meet each other again. It's like, all right, WW, my man. I'm gonna see how me and Mike click. How you doing, Mike? Hey, let's go work out. Let's hit the weights, man. Let's get to know this vibe. And but always with complete respect and freedom, the true freedom, which is to allow people to be themselves, to be their characters, to grow, to make mistakes. And that's what I love about this group, because we all have that with each other. We trust each other enough to know that we're all have something at risk, just like the Tuskegee Airmen, just like these fires. It's like, hey, we're all in this air. We have to get your bomber there. And we all have something at risk here. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. My family's out there. I'm here for this. So we all have something that keeps us flying in the sky. So yeah, it comes together, and everybody here is awesome. Nobody's a jerk. Everybody came in like, hey, we're here, head down, let's get to work. And I love that. It's a privilege.
That's great. Sean?
Uh, yeah, I'm thoroughly just enjoying this experience. To talk about the role, and Michael and Marcus can kind of attest to this, is that with the characters, I play bomber pilot Reynolds. Marcus is my co-pilot, and then we also play ensemble roles. I think it's really interesting to see that these characters are not villains; they're a product of their times, and it's interesting because to create not only to create a bunch of characters that coordinate with each other and grow, and that's one of the most beautiful things about this show. And Miss T really instilled that from the very beginning, is that you could read the script once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and there's so much subtext to what is being written, and you can play it so many different ways. One of the things I really love about this show. But when they're fighting in the air, and we're running the B-17s, and our guys are out there protecting us, despite how we feel about any of them, we have to rely on them. And that's something really powerful and gives it such universal quality to the characters in these relationships. As an actor, I mean, it's going to sound weird, but just like the military and theater are very similar in that aspect, is that you have your boot camp or your rehearsal space, and within that time you have to understand everyone around you. You have to you may not have to like them, but you have to respect them, and you are all working toward getting that one goal, and that's to graduate or to perform. And I think that's also something that's really interesting about doing a military play and being in theater, is that you can see the similarities of it and still find yeah. Yeah.
Okay, last, LG.
I would say that the trying to find the camaraderie with everybody from the beginning, just being in the space with them was easy. Being in the space with this cast is easy because they're such a welcoming group. They're very no one, and like they said earlier, no one's a jerk. No one, like, I don't feel resistance from any of the cast members, and I feel like that's great. What's been difficult is finding the camaraderie in my character with theirs is hard because none of them can see me. I exist with them in a different plane, and I think that the thing that I had to kind of think about and how I can kind of relate to them and their struggle is to first, I had to find out when this spirit would have even come around, when and why. And I feel like it's not just specific to these people. I feel like he's a spirit that kind of exists within the entirety of the African American population, pretty much around the world. And I think that the spirit himself probably originated in Africa before the first ships came, and that spirit was a lot happier all the time and free. And I feel like when the ships came and we were taken from our home, that spirit traveled along with them and felt their pain, felt their struggles. And then from the very beginning, when we went from being people to property, embodied that, and then went from property to almost being back people, embodying that, and going from almost being back people to still almost being back people into the eyes of other people. And unfortunately, it was a struggle not only from outside but from within as well, which started from the outside, where we were not only not seen as whole people to the outside, but they made us to believe that we weren't as well amongst our own people. So there was that internal conflict as well as the external that this spirit is trying to come about and like wholly understand. And so understand when I was able to kind of think and meditate on that idea, made it a lot easier for me as I am doing my people watching, where I am watching the isms of each individual character, who they are and why they are. And then as I feel them as a group coming closer together, I can feel myself also becoming more whole, if that makes sense.
Mm.
For the last question, from each of you, can you tell me one thing that you want the audience to walk away with? And I'm going to start with Miss T. Or you just muted yourself. And then you're still
She's
muted.
going for
You're
it.
muted.
Sorry. I want the audience, and LG, let me just say you brought tears to my eyes. I want the audience to walk away knowing that America was not built by one racial group. I want the audience to walk away knowing the contributions of all people to the building of this country. I think it's important to recognize that if I invite you all to a party, and that party is held at a facility that is not my home, and you all come to that party not knowing that I am the one that paid for that facility, not knowing that I'm the one that furnished the food for that party, then when I come to that party empty-handed, you resent my presence. And you resent my presence because I'm the only one who came to that party with nothing in my hand. And because you resent my presence, you treat me as an outsider and that I do not belong at this party. But what you don't know is that I threw this party. What you don't know is that I invited you to this party. So when the audience leaves, I want them to leave knowing that there is a contribution that all races have made to the building of this country. But if you don't know my contribution, you treat me as if I do not belong here. So in essence, what I'm saying is, I want the audience to walk away knowing that America was built by all the people who are here today. But because we only study his storybook, his story, you have no appreciation for our story. All stories need to be told. And this is why this play is so important. This is also why this play does not begin in Tuskegee. It begins as mankind began in Africa. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody like to add to that?
It's kind of hard to step. It's kind
I
of
would
hard.
say it's really hard to follow
Yeah,
up on that
I
one.
don't think
Yeah.
there's much to add to that. I will say that though this coming Sunday afternoon, we're going to be having a community conversation, which is exactly on that topic about things that are plain and simply left out of history. And this is one of those. And there's a lot of them. And so that's, we have several historians involved with this. And I think it's going to be a real eye-opening conversation, because I think a lot of impressions would be different if everybody learns from the same point of view. I want to thank you all. This has been a wonderful morning. And thank you again for getting up so early with me. Not for you, Miss T, since you get up at 4 a.m. So it's time for your afternoon nap. But we are.
I ain't that old.
I am. We will. Tickets are on sale now. People can call the box office, or they can go on to line at jpas.org and get your tickets there. We open February 4th and run for 2 weekends at Jefferson Pennsylvania Arts Center. And again, thank you all. This is an important show, and anything. I think it's really important that theater is not just a show that's for the stage. Theater must reflect life, and theater must make people's lives better. And I think that this is a show that absolutely does that. And I thank you all sincerely for being part of this project. And I'm thrilled that we're doing it.